to the 72nd Luncheon. My name is Joanne Falcutella, and I hope that you all have an enjoyable and informative time with us today. Again, ladies and gentlemen, may I say a few words about our MC today, Attorney Patricia Bunyi. Attorney Patricia Bunyi is a senior partner and deputy managing partner for administration of Cruz Marcelo and Tenefrancia. She heads its Mining and Natural Resources Department and the Energy Practice Group. She is also a partner in the Intellectual Property Department. She is a past president of the Licensing Executive Society International, LESI, 2016-2017, the first Filipino Southeast Asian to hold the position. She is also a founding president of Diwata Women Resource Development Incorporation, a non-government organization that advocates responsible development of the Philippines' wealth in resources. She is an active member of the Chamber of Mines of the Philippines Legal Committee and is a columnist in the Philippine Resources and Construction Journal. She is in the 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019, and 2018 list of the Philippines' top 100 lawyers and has been cited by various international law research publications such as Chambers Legal 500, Asia Law, and among many others. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now hand you over to our MC, Attorney Patricia Bunyi.
Thank you very much, Joanne, for the kind introduction, and I'm delighted to be back here as your MC. I would like to thank everyone for your presence today. Don't you feel the energy and electricity in the crowd? And I was told that it's really a full house, and it's because of our guest of honor and speaker this afternoon, the Secretary of the DENR. Let's give her a very warm round of applause. Good afternoon, Secretary Loyzaga. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of the Australian Ambassador to the Philippines, Ambassador HKU. Good afternoon, Ambassador. I am really very excited to be back as your MC for this special edition of the Philippine Mining Club Luncheon, co-hosted by Diwata Women in Resource Development in celebration of International Women's Day. And before we begin, I would like all of us to pause and remember our dear friend, Leo G. Dominguez, who passed away last November. And Leo, for over 10 years, graced this podium with his wit, charm, and great knowledge of the mining industry. Leo, a lawyer, retired in 2010 as partner of Kisumbing Torres, a member firm of Baker and McKenzie International. He headed its energy, mining, and infrastructure group. He was also the founder of Ollie Consulting Group and the chair of the Philippines-Sweden Business Council. He was the chair of the Philippines-Australia Business Council, a member of the Legal Committee of the Chamber of Mines of the Philippines, a legal advisor to the Philippine Mine Safety and Environment Association, and country leader and trustee of Enactus Philippines. He was also involved with us in Diwata and fondly called our Diwato. He was a member of our steering committee for our flagship project, Tanging Tanglao, turning IP women into solar engineers, also popularly called the Solar Lolas Project. And he brought the project partners together. Without him, I don't think this project would have come into fruition. Leo was also an advocate of planting bamboo as a means of creating livelihood projects and was a devoted member of the Land Rover Club of the Philippines. Leo, as you all know, was a true friend to all, and I invite you to observe a minute of silence to remember a truly great man. Please, a moment of silence for Leo. Thank you very much. The picture you see on the screen was taken last Saturday, our most recent visit to the project site in Bamban, Tarlac. And you will see the happy faces of the Solar Lolas and also the children in the community who will be benefiting from the efforts of Leo and all the project partners in the Tanging Tanglao project. So thank you again, everyone, for all your support and for all those who continue to help us in this endeavor. So before I proceed, I would like to highlight the following, that for those who need certificates of attendance, you may request them from Joanne Falcotella by emailing joanne@philippineminingclub.com. And of course, after the presentations today, we will have a Q&A. I know that you are all excited to ask our speaker questions. Before we proceed to lunch, we will show you some videos, the first of which is from TerraGrail, our supreme partner.
TerraGrail Geology and Geotechnics has been building a reputation in the industry since 2020, immensely growing from a small drilling services provider into a recognized engineering corporation for companies across the Philippines. At the time, we started with 5 employees during the height of the pandemic. But through passion and dedication, we've built a loyal and talented team of over 80 staff with a combined experience and expertise in geotechnical and civil engineering, all to offer our clients with end-to-end solutions, from concept to completion. As engineers, we understand the importance of foundations and subsurface conditions before building any type of structure. We work smarter and faster, with great care and precision. With health and safety as our priority, we're able to provide services in geophysics, geochemistry, and expert recommendations in engineering design. TerraGrail focuses on the pre-engineering aspects for your project site, whether it's for residential or commercial units, leisure or local government facilities. We offer a comprehensive array of services to an impressive range of clients in all sizes and in all industries. From site investigation to geophysical surveys, ground improvements, to foundation construction works, mineral exploration, to rock laboratory services. We build more than data analysis. We build relationships. Through our systematic approach and application of modern geotechnical methods, we save you the time, energy, and cost by delivering accurate field-generated data, all for better development. We are TerraGrail, provider of responsible, cost-effective engineering for rocks, soil, and ground solutions. Experience higher quality services at a lower cost.
Our next video is from Yaman, Philippines, a youth organization which has pledged to support the Philippine minerals industry by promoting responsible mining through various events for students and the general public. They recently started a social media campaign called Biyaheng Yaman, an educational tour and campaign promoting responsible mining by featuring different mining and quarry sites in the Philippines through social media platforms. Through this campaign, the organization aims to open the eyes of the general public to the coexistence of mining and the protection of the environment, giving light to the importance of the minerals industry, rectifying industry misconceptions, and shaping young minds to become stewards of the environment and mine safety.
Go! Ulit, ulit. Kung may day.
So you're next daw. If you want your company to be featured in Biyaheng Yaman, please get in touch with this youth organization, Yaman Philippines. Diwata also had the chance to visit Teresa Marble some years ago, and it was truly a memorable and most educational visit. We were, of course, assisted by our friends from the Land Rover Club of the Philippines. So do take advantage of this opportunity to work with Yaman Philippines. Now we come to the next part of the program, our also much awaited Stock Watch, which is a very informative feature. Our speaker is Sandy Gillis, who is now studying for a master's in financial planning in Sydney, Australia. Upon completion of that degree, he plans to apply for a license as a registered financial planner to advise on planning for savings, investment, and retirement. Sandy is still connected with First Metro Securities, for whom he conducts classes on stock market topics for Filipino workers overseas. He is also a director of a financial consultancy called Carillion Partners. They are now working to find capital of 48 million Australian dollars to fund the establishment of a new bank in Sydney. The new bank aims to serve business borrowers with better customer service than the big four Australian banks, but also at a lower cost. Sandy will join us remotely from Australia.
Hello to Diwata. Happy International Women's Day. And hello to the Mining Luncheon. This is your stock watch for today. Let me start by saying that if I were a rich man, then I probably wouldn't have to bother doing a lot of work savings and investing. All day long, I would bitty but if I were a wealthy man. But if not, I better save up and plan for the future. And I better hope that I have a wise mother or wife or daughter who could coach me how to work harder and smarter and to make good investments in mining and minerals. So let's see what the investment world has for us today. We need to calculate our expenses for age of 60 to 90. Everyone has to save money for retirement. And you need to check what are the needs of the family and all my descendants as well. So smart move is to check how are my savings as of now. And also, how's my salary and other income from now till age 60? Will it be sufficient? So that's the question. If you check and it's not sufficient, oh no, the expenses for the future are not fully covered. So therefore, you need to look at your bank savings, which are growing only at 1%. Then you need to look at any money that you have in government bonds, which are now growing at 6%, at least in terms of yield. That's very good already. But with inflation and all, you want your money to be growing more than 6%. Try for 10. But when you get into stocks, that's when you have sometimes positive, sometimes negative results by the end of any given year. So really your defense with stocks is to be investing in 20 or more. 30 is good, and then invest for 10 or 20 years, then you have a good chance of getting a positive result. At least for Philippine stocks, the average is 9% for the past 10 years, for the past 20 years, or for the past 30 years. It's consistently 9% growth, whether the economy is moving up or down. Really, if it's a long-term time horizon, then you get the best of the growth in the economy, including some negative years, which can be canceled out by the growth. So let's look at the prospects in the world today. And unfortunately, the global economy is forecast to be declining in growth to 2.7% this year, even for the advanced economies, because they're hurt in terms of energy costs and infrastructure. They're declining to 1.1% growth this year, 2023. And even the emerging markets and developing economies are going to be forecasting flat growth. But not all is lost because not all economies are weak. If you look at emerging and developing Asia, there still is 5% plus growth in parts of Asia, having to do with large populations. They need to feed themselves. They need to build more schools, houses. And so because they have greater needs and there's tremendous demand for goods. So Asia is still growing. And if therefore the economy in Asia is moving up, well, companies in Asia will make profits. Therefore, their stock prices will move up. Now, if I invest in shares via funds, then if the funds move up, my portfolio benefits. And my money has a chance to grow more percent per year than otherwise, than if I were to do nothing. So where can I put money? One possible way of deciding is to put money in the biggest economy. That would be Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia. Or I could go put money in the highest GDP per capita. That would be Singapore, Brunei, Malaysia. Or I could go for a smaller economy but has good growth prospects. That would be Vietnam, Philippines, Laos, Cambodia. The gross domestic product of the ASEAN countries are forecast to keep growing consistently all the way to 2027. They are a safe bet. Invest in ASEAN as a whole. How do I try it out? Well, buy shares of stock of ASEAN companies, including mining and minerals, and buy investment funds containing stocks of good companies in ASEAN, even if they belong to other industries outside of mining and minerals. For example, telecom and energy have good prospects. And then open an international brokerage account, put in some dollars, make decisions, invest some money, take a risk, and wish and hope that your money will be wisely invested. The way you do that is you invest it in a fund that is riding an economic trend. And also to invest long term, meaning 10 to 20 years. If you hold on to the investment for 10 years, chances are, in fact, 92% of the chances say that you will get a positive growth rate per year for that 10-year period. Within the 10-year period, you might have 2 bad years, but they will be canceled out by the 8 good years. The same is true with investing for 20 years. You might have 4 bad years within the 20, but the other 16 good years will cancel out the negative effects of the declines. So you still would have 99% chances of getting a positive growth rate per year. That's diversification plus long-term time horizon is your best bet for investing your nest egg so that it will be ready for by the time you're 60 and keep on growing until you're 90. And you can leave some goodies behind for the children and grandchildren. Well, thank you for your kind attention. Should you have any questions, feel free to email me your questions at agilus@carillonpartners.net. Thank you, and regards again to the Mining Luncheon and to Diwata. Cheers.
Cheers, Sandy. Thank you very much. We will be back after you've enjoyed your lunch. Enjoy the company of the people in your table, and we will be back for the most awaited speech of our guest of honor. Thank you. It is truly my privilege to introduce her today. Maria Antonia Yulo Loyzaga is the Secretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources of the Philippines. From 2017 to 2022, she was the President of the National Resilience Council, or NRC, a science and technology-based public-private partnership aimed at the implementation of the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the Paris Climate Agreement. She is a member of the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction's Asia-Pacific Science Technology Advisory Group, or APS-TAG, and the director of the Alliance for Disaster Resilient Societies, or the ARISE Philippines Initiative, where NRC leads the Disaster Risk Management Strategies work theme. She serves on the Science Advisory Board of the Integrated Research on Disaster Risk International Center of Excellence, Taipei, and is a governing board member of the Future Earth Global Secretariat Hub, Taipei. She is also the vice chairperson of Forest Foundation Philippines. She was a trustee of the Zwilig Family Foundation, Manila Observatory, Ateneo de Manila University, and Ateneo de Naga University. She was also the executive director of the Manila Observatory from 2007 to 2016. During this period, she was appointed to the Department of Science and Technology's Committee on Space Technology Applications and to the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, National Commission's Committee on Science and Technology. In 2013, she was recognized by the Armed Forces of the Philippines for her contributions to the Philippine military's emergency disaster response operations during Super Typhoon Haiyan. Secretary Loyzaga holds a Master of Arts degree in Government from Georgetown University and Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science from the Ateneo de Manila University. Ladies and gentlemen, let us warmly welcome Secretary Maria Antonia Yulo Loyzaga.
Thank you very much, Attorney Bunyi. Thank you to everyone, including our hosts, for this kind invitation. I have been given a very difficult task to speak after one eats, especially at this hour, the hora de peligro. I'll try to make it as interesting as I can for you, if that's possible. Good afternoon. I'd like to begin by acknowledging our distinguished guests present today. Ambassador HKU, Ambassador of Australia to the Philippines, Ambassador Delia Albert, Senior Advisor SGV, and Chairman of DIWATA. Chris Lim, Senior Trade Investment Commissioner, Australian Embassy, our former DNR Secretary, Horacio Ramos, Sir. Tiffany, I always struggle with your last name, Tiffany Ven Mahedvong, right? Our Energy, Environment, Science and Technology and Health Deputy of the U.S. Embassy, General Roy de Baraturda, President of Sagittarius Mines, Mr. Jose Yulo, namesake of my grandfather, President of Johnson Gold Mining Corporation, Luis Sarmiento, President of Apex, Mr. Jerry Brimo, Chairman of Nickel Asia Corporation, Ms. Annie D. of Teresa Marble, Ms. Joan Catiling. I always struggle with that as well. Oceana Gold Philippines, Yun Yong Cho, President CSO of Maidan Corporation, and Angelita Lee, President of Eastern Rizal Miners Association. Good afternoon to everyone. It's an honor to be invited to today's luncheon to celebrate International Women's Day with all of you. The DNR is privileged to work with the women of DIWATA, whose mission includes enhancing diversity, inclusion, and equity in mining. Minerals are a part of our daily lives, and they are used in one form or another across all industries. They are needed to build an industrialized and digital society, and they are required for us to fully transition to clean energy and mitigate climate change towards a low-carbon future. This administration, therefore, seeks to ensure a dynamic, and sustainable mining industry. We believe that there is a need to steer the industry, together with all of you, towards a safe and sustainable future where no ecosystem and no community is left behind. We believe that a climate resilient and inclusive mining industry that supports our Philippine Development Plan is critical in the social, environmental protection of our natural resources in our communities, to climate change mitigation and adaptation, to disaster risk reduction. The mining industry is truly in a unique position to advance these multiple pathways towards inclusive, resilient, and sustainable development in the Philippines. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. stated in his State of the Nation address that those who extract our natural resources must follow our laws. In this light, the DENR affirms our commitment towards responsible mining through the implementation of pro-people, pro-environment, and science-based policies and programs. We believe in evidence-informed and innovative approaches. We believe in science and technology, but also in local and traditional knowledge and how both should inform both policy and practice. While the DENR is for responsible mining within the context of our goals for inclusive, resilient, and sustainable development, our main task moving forward is to frame and define, together with all of you, what responsible mining truly is in our country. It begins, we believe, with a mindset that specifically addresses the resilience of people and the environment and our national security. It is a commitment to being a champion for environmental integrity while advancing the Philippine Development Plan and our international commitments, among others, the SDGs, the Paris Agreement, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, and the Convention on Biological Diversity. In addition, the DENR hopes to streamline our approach to managing resource development. We espouse a mitigation hierarchy which starts with avoidance of all possible environmental impacts. Where this is not possible, the next option would be to minimize these impacts. And the third layer is to rehabilitate all disturbed areas. And finally, for truly unavoidable disruptions, we must invest in a system of offsets, especially in the enhancement of important and high-value ecosystems to achieve a net positive impact on biodiversity and support a low-carbon trajectory for our country. The DENR believes that this framework is applicable to the mining industry, and there have been many cases in the global space that have already had some success. We, as you know, have also established now a national natural resource geospatial database, whose goal is to enable us to have a single database of our natural resources as a baseline for our country's capital accounting. A use case for the mining industry has already been developed, and that would be in determining, for example, which MPSAs are not being utilized, which development areas overlap with critical ecosystems and protected areas, and quantifying the reforestation efforts of mining companies within MPSAs over time. We believe in this case that what is not measured cannot be managed, as we all know, nor can it be valued or treasured. As some of you may know, about a month ago, the DENR held a multi-stakeholder conference in Cagayan de Oro. That was our third multi-stakeholder conference, the first one being in Manila, the second one in Iloilo, and the third in CDO. It was designed for us to know the various sectors' pain points and recommendations in improving the department's mandate. One particular session in this forum focused on mining. During this session, it became quite apparent to me that the mining industry has been traditionally dominated by men. A 2020 scoping study commissioned by the Philippines EITI stated the following key issues that women in the mining industry in the Philippines face. The first, a gender division of labor, where women constitute a minority of the workforce and only a few women occupy technical and leadership positions. Secondly, environmental problems linked to mining operations such as pollution of rivers and the drying up of water sources. This puts added pressure on women as household managers and also as providers. Third, the lack of a sustainable livelihood outside the employment by mining companies. Fourth, the absence of guidelines on the inclusion of gender-responsive projects in the SDMP, and minimal participation of women in the development in these programs. Finally, there are gaps in the content and implementation of policies and frameworks that address the gender dimensions of mining. I was just remarking to Ambassador Delia earlier that I found the study to be informative, but also needing to be enhanced and broader and deeper in context. The issue of women in mining and inclusion is a complex one and has evolved over time given the different value systems that are involved in our society. So we hope that there will be a more in-depth and a more comprehensive look at gender and mining in this country. There is a need to ensure that women's representation in the mining industry is both meaningful in all levels of decision-making as well as substantive. We need to work together to ensure that this sector becomes an enabling and empowering environment for women. And we hope that this will include reskilling, upskilling, strengthening STEM education to motivate women to pursue careers that are very important and related to this industry. We will be revisiting the Philippine Mining Act, and we'll be looking at this in tandem with the Magna Carta of Women. We want to continue to generate national and comprehensive disaggregated data, hopefully with your help, and for all of you to kindly please answer the survey of Ambassador Delia. We'd like to enjoin all of you to do that. We need the data very badly. So that's an advertisement for your an endorsement for this particular survey. So please, gentlemen and ladies, kindly provide the data. And lastly, to ensure that the SDMPs are gender sensitive, inclusive, and equitable. What we hope to do today is to engage in an open discussion on the most pressing issues for women in the industry. I'm not an expert on this subject, and I hope you will bear with me as I try to answer from the perspective of the industry and how we can work together to ensure responsible mining. The DENR hopes that we can all work with each other to raise awareness of the mining industry's vital contributions to the inclusive, resilient, and sustainable development of our country. Thank you very much, and I wish everyone a wonderful rest of the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Loyzaga. You've given us many points for discussion this afternoon, and I'm sure the audience is eager to engage in a very fruitful and productive discussion. So we're now opening the floor for questions from the audience. We will request you to identify yourselves before you ask your questions and the organization that you belong to.
Hi, good afternoon. So my name is Christina from GHD. And so I think one of the key questions we often receive from our clients is what are the plans of DENR in terms of GHG accounting limits, if you're planning to implement those, as well as your reporting requirements for GHG accounting as well. So if you could just provide an update on that, that would be very helpful. My second question is, how do you see the mining industry contribute to the NDC commitments of the Philippines? Thank you.
So thank you for that question. As you know, I now represent the President on the Climate Change Commission. And one of the unfortunate situations, I guess, in terms of our own policy development, is that we have not completed the NDCs. And so what we would like to do now, with the DNR's help, is to really work on enabling the CCC to have the technical capacity to actually complete the national GHG accounting and to take a fresh look at the NDC. In terms of the sector, I think that all of you are very much aware of how you should be accounting for your greenhouse gas emissions. Eventually, the sector will be held accountable for its contribution to this inventory nationally. And so I urge all of you, within your own sustainability reporting practices, to already account for all the different tiers that are necessary for you to actually have a full disclosure of your emissions. So there are two things in this particular area. The Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures actually should be one of your reference points. There is a sustainable finance roadmap that the BSP and the DOF have actually put in place that will, at the end of the day, basically mandate disclosures on the part of industries. So please already put in place those systems. I know that many of you actually issue your sustainability reports annually. They should actually reflect accurately what you are producing in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. One of the actual, possibly, I would say, silver linings here is that we will be able to engage you as well on the adaptation side. The mitigation side is just one side of climate action. And what the DNR is particularly interested in is the physical impacts that we are already experiencing given the climate change. And so with your accounting and disclosures, we really would appreciate also your taking a good look at adaptation and disaster risk reduction in tandem. Eventually, this will all become mandatory. And I know the SEC is moving very quickly in this direction. So I hope that answers your question.
Ma'am, magandang umaga po. Ako po si Jonalyn Tuginay, President ng Kalipunan ng Liping Pilipina, DDPU Chapter. Tanong ko po, ma'am, kasi nabanggit niyo about women empowerment. And bilang mga kababaihan po, partner din po kami ng Oceana Gold sa DDPU. May mga programa kami para mas mapalakas pa ang parte ng women doon sa komunidad namin. Ang tanong ko po ay, ano po ba ang mga programa ang sa tingin nyo ay pwede namin gawin na grupo at ng Oceana Gold para ma-involve lahat, hindi lang yung mga kababaihang tulad namin, kaedad namin, kundi yung kabataang kababaihan din po, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Ang iniisip po namin ngayon, ang value ng strategic communication. And strategic communication is what will define the identity and the voice of your advocacy. And where this industry, I think, needs the biggest push is in actually presenting the positive values that it actually advances given the investments made in the social side of development. So I think po, ang pinaka-importante is yung ating IEC component, ay IEC from the very start. Hindi po lang sa dulo ng isang proyekto, hindi po lang sa dulo ng isang ginawa or programa. Kailangan po yan from the very beginning. On the part of women, there is no substitute for education. We need to invest in the education of women in order to advance their contributions to society. This issue of talking about women as holding up half of the sky, this is a way to project the contribution of women globally. But here in the Philippines, women in mining don't really have a voice. Diwata is probably the only voice that we will ever hear out of women in mining. And I think that there are many others who actually would like to be represented as ably as the group that has joined Diwata. So yun po, I think communication linked to identity, that is linked to advocacy. Otherwise po, hindi po aangat ang estado ng women in this country. Yun po.
Ma'am, if I may expand on that point, because one observation made about our industry is perhaps we don't communicate very well, that the companies do a lot of good in the community, sometimes even doing better than what government should be doing for the communities. And it's the companies that actually have stepped into the role of the government, but sometimes perhaps it is not made known to the general public. What could we do on a practical level? As you said, the communication should be done from the very beginning, not when the projects have been completed already.
So I won't comment on the role of government
Yes,
and what
ma'am.
is.
Sorry.
However, I do think that, and I've said this in private, I've said this actually to Secretary Balisacan as well. We think of the contribution of the mining industry solely based on its contribution to GDP. Okay, what we don't really see in terms of value is the social side of things, the investments in social development, education, health, the investments in infrastructure. Understood, these roads will lead to the mines. It's understood. But the roads also lead out to the mines. And that's where, in fact, people have realized there are opportunities outside the tenement. We do need to be able to communicate those investments more effectively. Where you don't communicate these positive contributions, the void will be filled by the negative aspects and the negative practices of those in the industry that have the command of the media. And this is where I want to urge this industry, those that are doing the good, to actually project and communicate what they are contributing to human development, where they actually are, and to the surrounding region. Because at the end of the day, we all benefit when one person is educated and is able to find a job, when the family is able to feed itself and not rely on just dole-outs. The ability to form capital that is generated by, in fact, these types of investment are what are part of the positive contributions of the industry. We do not make enough noise about that, and therefore the noise is filled with the negative.
Thank you very much. Next question, please, from the audience. Yes?
Magandang hapon po. Analisa Katig po from DDPU Nueva Vizcaya, kung saan matatagpuan ang DDPU mine, Oceana Gold. May balita po kasi ma'am na magkakaroon ng review tungkol po sa mining. At ang tanong ko po ma'am, ano po kaya ang magiging epekto ng review sa amin na nasa kapaligiran ng mining? Katulad namin na may natatanggap na tulong mula sa Oceana Gold. So, matanong ko lang po ma'am kung ano po yung mga epekto kung halimbawa magkakaroon ng review sa tungkol sa mining ma'am.
Thank you po. Ang pakay po ng review natin ay masagawa ang, how do I say, mas komprehensibong pagkakaunawa ng impact ng mining sa social, sa economic, sa environmental. Yung tatlong po yun are part of the Balancing Act na parte po ng mandate ng DENR. Ang review ng Mining Act actually aims to address where we see there are gaps in the procedures, in the people aspect of mining, as well as, of course, in the economic and financial impact that is able to deliver po sa ating bansa. The net effect of the review is to have a positive effect on the industry. That is the direction po ng gobyernong ito. We are looking at mining as a contributor to economic recovery. So ang pag-review po ng mga legislation na ito is really to actually enhance the positive contributions of the sector to the country's development plan. So sa inyo po, maayos po yung pagkatakbo ng kumpanya sa inyo. I think po, just give me 1 second po. I think po, ang mangyayari po dito sa review is to actually deliver more positive outputs and outcomes to the communities in the surrounding areas. Isa pong malaking problema sa aming palagay ay ang small-scale mining. And yun po ang i-review namin na masinsinan. Kasi po, sa palagay po namin, malaking epekto ang review sa pagkaprotekta ng mga small-scale mines at miners at sa pagkaayos po ng local governance ng mga small-scale mining activities. So, isa pong direksyon sa review ay ito pong konsepto na big brother, small brother. Hinahanap po namin ang relasyon between dito sa mga malalaking mina at yung mga gumagawa dito sa labas ng tenement na small-scale mining. Yun po ang pakay ng pagka-review. Secondly po, kailangan po namin i-enhance ang pag-observe, ang monitoring relating to permitting dito po sa sector na ito. So, tinitignan po namin ang lahat ng aspeto para po magiging positive ang contribution at less negative ang impact ng mining po dito sa ating bansa.
Sana po ma'am kasali din yung sa SDMP na sana kung may pagbabago man pati yung SDMP, sana mabigyan din ng mabigat na pondo ang livelihood projects at saka climate change projects po.
Ma'am, nabanggit ko po yan dito po sa sinabi ko kanina. Ang SDMP ay isa pong tinitingnan namin ng maayos para po maging responsive dito sa gender issues as well as to the social challenges po sa mga komunidad. Ang climate po, hindi nyo na kailangan ibanggit, pero salamat po, binanggit ninyo. Itong administrasyon ito ni President Marcos, lahat po ng departamento ang binigyan ng instruction. Everyone must think about climate resilience in the mandate that they are actually performing. Si Presidente po nagsabi niyan. So lahat po kami may instruction. Climate resilience, disaster resilience must be in our agenda. Salamat po.
Thank you, Secretary.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am. I am Yasmin from MNL International Mining Corporation. We would like to ask when will you start approving the EP renewal or the MPSA or other permits po?
The permitting process is ongoing. If you have not yet received a response to your own applications, please come and see us at the department and make it known as far as whatever has not been responded to.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Next will be this table.
From Huayu Cobalt, China, Mr. Liu. Actually, we see very strong demand in Indonesia developing the EV battery material value chains, especially for nickel, cobalt, such elements. Do the Philippine government will have some support policy to come out to develop EV battery materials industry, like especially for mining, refinery, smelter, to precursor, something like that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that question. Two things perhaps to respond to. In terms of a greater and interest in supporting the processing here locally, there is a very great interest in doing that. The Department of Trade and Investment and the DOF are working very closely together, as well as with us, on how we can incentivize the development of processing facilities here in the country. Secondly, on this issue of the demand of nickel and cobalt, The department has taken the position that there are two types of minerals that we are looking at this point, critical and strategic. Critical materials being those that are necessary in economic development, and strategic minerals which are security related. We have taken very clear notice of this distinction, and we're looking at global demand on a scenario-based basis in order for us to project how this industry should be opening up and how it might handle, in fact, those critical and strategic minerals moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. Okay. Earlier, Secretary, you mentioned that one task for the industry is to frame and define what's sustainable mining is or responsible mining. How would you like us to work together with you in the DNR in accomplishing this?
I think probably the first step is to take a good look at the Philippine Development Plan. And within that basic context, chart a roadmap towards your own contribution as a sector to the fulfillment of that plan. There are many ways in which the industry can help. I think that the uniqueness, for example, of the SDMP would be one of those pathways wherein it could really help contribute to the development of a responsible pathway for the mining industry. And so this idea of responsible mining is highly contextualized. As you know, the vulnerabilities in terms of climate change are very differentiated at the local level. Other hazards need to be taken into consideration. The development trajectory of each of the different local communities in which you all are working are one of those contexts that need to be very closely studied in order for this industry to be called responsible. So there is no one size fits all. We need to understand that risk must be looked at comprehensively, and therefore solutions need to be multifaceted and multi-tiered. And I think that for this industry, with all the technical and scientific foundation that it has, you are uniquely capable of addressing specific vulnerabilities and demands for the development of your areas, but also of the country as a whole. So I'd be very happy to sit down on a dialogue on responsible mining. We will hold a roundtable on mining fairly soon, possibly not in April, but in May. I think that we've already started with some of the consultations. We had one the other day in a smaller group with the industry involved. But we do need to sit down and say, for the Philippines, what does responsible mining really mean?
Yes. Thank you. I understand, ma'am, that yesterday there was such a round table. Would you like to share some of the key points? Is that all right?
Putting me on a spot here.
I'm sorry.
I'll just say part of my closing message.
Yes.
We are looking very much at seeing how, at the exploration stage, for example, the MMT might already be organized. We are looking at how we can use space-based technologies to monitor environmental change. And we have the capability to do that. We also have the capability to apply artificial intelligence to look at the future in terms of impacts. What we'd like to do is walk hand in hand with the industry in terms of observation, monitoring, compliance. These are the three areas wherein we feel the technologies available today can really enrich our relationship between government and the private sector.
Yes, thank you.
Hello. I just want to build on the what you've mentioned.
Your name and organization,
yes.
please.
Sorry. I'm Elise Guerrero. I am part of the GHD organization. Regarding what you've mentioned about incorporating gender lens on the mining communities, ma'am, it is very, very encouraging and assuring to incorporate gender and strengthen gender diversity on communities that on mining communities. My question is there any policy or guidelines that's being drafted now, and when will it likely to come out?
Well, we ourselves in the department are working on mainstreaming GAD into our own policies internally as well as externally in terms of the Bureau mandates. So within this year, you will hear something from us in terms of gender. And I'd be happy to share that with all of you and all the women in the room who are concerned. What I'd like to actually add to this is that women should be recognized not just because they're women, but for the merit that they bring to the purpose of their organizations. And so we cannot just rest on our laurels and say we need to be recognized because we are women. We must be women of substance, women of purpose, and women of achievement. So I urge everyone here, and I know all of you are very hardworking in your own rights and have been recognized in your organizations, but we must continue to push to be recognized for our own merit and for our contributions to our organizations.
Thank you very much, Secretary, for that.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Danessa Rivera from the Philippine Star. I just wanted to ask an update regarding the review of the Philippine mining laws. Where are we at the review, and how soon will we see the review to be put in place? And what's your outlook for the mining industry this year, given that the industry performed stellarly last year with a 31% growth? Thank you.
So I'll answer the last question first. We feel that there will be a very positive outlook for the industry this year. Again, this will be continued. On the review, I just want to state that this is a rolling review. We will be releasing a first communications on the review by June, but we will not stop in June. Basically, the law has been in place since 1995. There is a lot to review on this law. And in terms of the work that we are doing now at the department, we are abiding by a principle which is called intersectionality. We do not review the Philippine mining law in isolation. There is the Clean Air Act, there is the Clean Water Act, there is the Solid Waste Management Act. So all of these intersect with each other, and so we cannot just review the mining law solely. The way we work now on the departments is that the bureaus must consult each other, and therefore our processes and procedures, and if your permitting is taking a little bit longer, you will understand that the principle of intersectionality has to do with dealing with vulnerability and risk in its many dimensions. We cannot do a bureau mandate solely in a silo. We now have to intersect with each other in order for us to determine how good a job are we actually doing. Is it delivering a net positive effect, and how is that made possible? So this is the direction of the department. You will hear something in June. There will be a roundtable around May, and we'll continue to communicate with you in the media. If I may just make one statement. And this has to do again with women and merit, and I apologize for going back to that point. Anyway, this is about the celebration of International Women's Day. I should say, not just because Ambassador HK is here, but this is the year that we have so many women ambassadors. Okay, I believe there are 17, if I'm not mistaken. And this brings a unique opportunity for the country to be seen through a different lens in terms of development. And I think that this is an opportunity to acknowledge the support that we have been given from countries like France, like Australia, like the US, who all have women ambassadors, as well as others, including, I think PNG has, South Africa has an excellent ambassador, and we learn from all the experiences of these ambassadors in these countries as far as the mining sector development is concerned. So I think I'd like to state that in light of this particular gathering, because we have a unique opportunity to explore the different dimensions, the gender-related dimensions of this particular industry through the eyes of our women ambassadors today. So I wanted to make that statement and recognize, of course, HK's unique contribution to this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. I just want to return to a point you raised about intersectionality and the silos, because during the time of Ambassador Albert as mining envoy, we also had the Minerals Development Council, and that was very effective because all the government agencies involved in promoting mining had a forum to make sure that there was consistency in pursuing the mining agenda. And there was certainly high-level consultation among them. Is there any chance at all that something like that could be brought back to ensure that mining as a driver of the economy could really be pushed in that manner?
Absolutely. And I think that this is precisely the direction which we would all want to go. Without this multi-sector conversation, we will not be able to say that we are truly consultative in our performing our duties, as well as involving critical contributions from the different sectors that are involved in this industry. So to those who have actually experienced this, and again, I am new to this job, and I think that this is where I can learn from all of you. This is an experience that has already yielded a positive response within the industry as well as for the country as a whole. And I'm very happy and open to be able to pursue this with you.
Thank you. Yes, Ambassador Yu.
It would be remiss of me not to respond to your very kind comment, Secretary. Thank you so much for recognizing women in ambassadorship, and really looking forward to contributing to the Philippines' economic growth. But I wanted to also just say, take a moment to say, as an Australian representative, I'm learning a great deal from the Philippines about women in mining. And frankly, I think you're doing a lot better job of it than we are in Australia. So there's a lot we can learn from how the Philippines is organizing itself and using their powerful women to advance this very important industry. And to that extent, I cannot agree with you more, Secretary Tony, that it's all about what value we bring to the business world, to these industries. And the fact that so many women have asked questions today, and there are so many women present today, shows we have a hell of a lot we can bring to this very important industry. And even on our merit alone, you know, we can make huge difference. Why? Because we bring a different perspective. We bring, and it's not a better perspective than men's, it's a perspective that's different, that actually enhances the effectiveness of whatever it is that we do, including mining. So I just wanted to thank you, but also acknowledge and really congratulate the Philippines for doing such a fantastic job in bringing women to this important sector, and that Australia stands ready to work with you in this very important industry. I can see so many opportunities, and this is why we are taking a business mission to Western Australia, where mining is very successful, very influential industry in that part of the world. So we can actually exchange these ideas, we can learn from each other, and you can start to see what it is that Australian companies can actually offer as your partners. Thank you so much. I just wanted to thank you for your kind remarks.
Yes.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Attorney Valenton. I've been part of the review of mining operations under the MICC. And one of the main concerns raised through phases 1, 2, and 3 is the interface between the national government and the local government. We have the rigorous process of applying the MPSA or all those permits, and many companies would have their operations stifled or impaired by local government units not issuing business permits, maybe because of mining bans and all those things. Do we have any move towards having perhaps a one-stop shop so that these mining permits would already include business permits in the local government in their municipalities or cities? Thank you.
Sir, one of the lessons I've learned actually in this brief moment that I have been in this job is to stay in my own lane. But let me respond to you. The coherence between national and local in terms of policy and practice is well known that there is a need for coherence. And so as part of our work very recently, over the last few months, we've had continuous conversations with the DILG. Secretary Ben-Hur Abalos is very responsive to the difficulties that the various bureaus in the department actually face having to implement national policy and bring that down all the way downstream to the local. Having said that, we realize that there is this difficulty, and it's becoming more and more apparent to us. As I mentioned earlier, where the void in public communications is being filled by negative stories regarding local impediments or local situations wherein national permitting has actually been already done, but then the local ordinances and the like have not been issued on the permits. So this is a problem that we acknowledge, and we are trying to deal with. Within my own lane, I have had consultations with the DILG to see how we might be able to address these specific difficulties. It's not uncommon. It's in the different areas where the DNR works. It was even in the disaster risk reduction sphere where I used to work. National-local incoherence in terms of policy and practice. And that's something that is not unique also globally. And so I hope to be able to address the specific challenges of this industry by continuing dialogue. We do need to understand that there needs to be some kind of convergence at some point. And so thank you for that question, but I don't have a real solution to give you. The one-stop shop, while ideal, may actually result also in some very difficult struggles in terms of points of view on the part of the local governments. As you know, decentralization, devolution have both advantages and disadvantages in terms of managing the environment. So I'm afraid I don't have a definitive solution for you on that. But we realize that this problem is very pressing.
Look like. You said, and I quote, "Responsible mining builds on regulatory compliance that goes beyond the number of trees we plant and the number of people we employ. It begins with a mindset that specifically addresses resilience of people and planet within the core business value cycle. It is a commitment to deliver not only profits to the companies, but to be an agent of ecological integrity through environmental improvements and to be a champion for social progress and environment. It is a mindset of constant progress in all aspects of our triple bottom lines that ensures that no one is left behind." Madam Secretary, you have repeated those messages, and I hope it stays in all our minds. And most specifically, Diwata is committed to your policies of responsible mining. Thank you so much for coming and dialoguing with us. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that is the perfect way to end our conversation with Secretary Loyzaga. And may we just ask you, ma'am, for your parting words for this audience this afternoon.
I think Ambassador Delia stole those words from me already. But there are great opportunities for this sector. We do need to work together. We do need to be in constant dialogue. And I think that our department is open. We have tried to talk to all parties in this sector. And we continue to try and work on that balance between environmental protection and natural resources development, and we can only do it if we do this together. So thank you very much for the invitation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary.